Hi, this is Patrick Bark with Aurelia. Today we're going to cover how to use our timing platform REST API. This is built into the web UI of the majority of our timing products, including the SecureSync platform, so the 1200 and 2400, and the Versa platform, so the Versa Sync and Versa PNT. The REST API is very useful for querying as well as configuration utilizing machine-to-machine language. Anything you can see or do in the web UI is available through the REST API. That also means that you can script it, and those scripts can be automated to run. There are some applications out there for monitoring devices that can utilize scripts, and these scripts can be loaded and help for monitoring and configuring multiple SecureSyncs. The way that we document REST API scripts is we provide a Postman collection and set of environment variables. The Postman tool is helpful in keeping your requests organized. It allows you to send requests, see the responses, and view the formats of each of those responses. It's also a quick way to prototype the different endpoints. Postman can also be useful in getting you up and running without having to write any scripting in general. What you see here now is the Postman window. I've already imported the collection that we provide on our FTP site, files.spectracom.com. Inside there are going to be two JSON files, one for the collection itself and the other for the environment variable that the collection uses. First, I want to review how to import the files. You go up to the left corner of Home and click to see your home view. Then you go into your workspaces. I've labeled mine My Workspace. Then I filter on the collection I want to use. Once you're here, you just click the import button, then drag in your collection or JSON file. That imports a collection called SecureSync REST API. Although it's called SecureSync REST API, it does apply to other products as I reviewed earlier. The second import file will be imported the same way, and you can see them up here as API variables. Now these variables are set up so that you don't have to use the raw information in every request. Our first example is how to log into the device using the REST API. Under the authentication subfolder, there's a login post request. You'll see when you click on this that it has this curly bracket URL. This is an environment variable that we have set up for the collection. So this will reference whatever the current available IP address is here. For our example, we'll change it to be 162.236. Now, whenever I issue any of these requests, for example, the logout request or disciplining status, they will also use this URL, and those requests will go to this one IP address. We have a couple other environment variables that you can play with as well. Now, I'll go in and show you logging into a device. With devices, you'll see that there are header files available. Then inside here is the body of the data that you'll send to the request. This is the format of the username and password that needs to be supplied to the endpoint. This will pass information in a way that the REST API knows how to decode and use. You'll notice here that username and password are once again set up as environment variables. If you go into your environment variables, you'll also notice that the username and password are set to the default admin account that we have in all of our devices. One other thing to note here, in newer versions of SecureSync 1200 and 2400, we have to add a new header that is this X requested with, and then XML HTTP request. This needs to be supplied for newer, so release 5.9.2 SecureSync devices. That can be set on every request, either GET or POST, and it will work. Once you have this opened, the XML header is set up, and you have the username and password configured properly, you can hit send. From here, you'll see that you have a status 200 OK, which means the request was good. We get this redirect back to /. Everything seems okay, so now I'll issue a GET request to make sure everything went through properly. I'm logged in and I have this cookie that I should be able to use. Next, I'll go to the toolbar on the left and navigate to the next request, oscillators/status.json. This is a GET request, so there's no body. We're sending an HTTP GET to this endpoint. When I send this, I should get a JSON formatted representation back of the oscillator status that I would see in the web UI, which I did. Whenever you do an endpoint request, either a GET or a POST, some sort of JSON return data will be present. In this, I was expecting disciplining status. You can see that I have the DAC value, phase error, and frequency error that you would see in the web UI on the oscillator page. I have my oscillator type as OCXO, and it shows that we're currently in a lock state. So this shows the value of Postman, in that you can go to any page in the web UI and work your way back to get the data via the REST API, so you can script it all going forward. Keep in mind that our Postman collections, we just provide examples to help you get up and running. If you have more advanced requests, then you may contact our support team. Another interesting feature is the ability to get data from the IDM software, if it's present. There's an endpoint for that as well, similar to the request for disciplining status. First, I'll make sure I have my X requested with and XML HTTP request set up. Now go to presets. I made a preset already that does this for me. It adds in this T value pair that I know I need for the 2400. You can also manually type these headers in. This is how you would hand type it to make sure it was there if you did not have it saved and added already. Using this endpoint, we can get data from the IDM software that's running on this device because it's licensed. If you don't have access to the software, then the algorithm won't work, but it is a way to get all of the data that you see in the web UI through the REST API. Here's an additional feature of Postman. If you look on the right side, you can see this code button. This provides a code snippet in different programming languages. I typically use Python requests, but we can also set up a request in curl, for example. For curl, it gives you the command line to use to send the request. Same thing with Python requests. It kind of shows you how to make that request. You can copy this example, make a Python script file, and that will do your login. You can do one for any of these requests, but this one is for the oscillator status. If you were to use this example, you would get the oscillator status returned. Keep in mind, when you're going to do this from a script, you first need to log in, then save that session value, then you can make the next request. These examples are nice, however they do not show how to make the login followed by another GET or POST request. You'll need to make sure you figure out in your programming language of choice how you save that cookie, then reuse the session cookie for follow-on requests. We are not going to dive in deep on that here, but I do want to make note that there is some programming knowledge required to make all of this work as well. As a final note, I will show an example of a script running. As you can see, we have script here called query SSIDM. This is going to go out to the same SecureSync that we were using in our Postman examples earlier, and we'll do the same query to get the same status of the IDM software suite. Here is the command line. I'm using Python, the name of the script, and some command line parameters. By default, it uses the admin login. The -H tells it to take this as the IP address of the device I'm sending the Python request to. When I run this, you can see that I get JSON data back. It's a little messy in a command line, but this is all of the data from the IDM software running on the device. This can be set up to run automatically in your format of choice. This was a quick baseline demo of the REST API for our timing products. It has the potential to be very powerful. This should help you get started, but we have a team of professional support staff available if you still have more questions following this video. Thank you very much for your time.